Hey there. Hold the applause. Hold the applause until we bring up our guest, Arel Moodie. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So, Arel Moodie is a best-selling author for real, a professional speaker for real, who has spoken at really more than 48 states and 5 countries and over 750,000 people while generating millions of dollars from his speaking business. I'm so excited about this show. He is also the TV host of Family Reboot on Disney Plus, that's produced by Kelly Ripa. And now, and there's more, he's also the co-founder of Talkadot, all right, a software design tool that will designed specifically for professional speakers to get data they need to make it easier for event planners to say booking them, right? And to collect leads so they can for their audience as well. So it's like nurturing your audience after you leave and you get that standing ovation. So with that, I'm going to bring up Arel Moodie. Yay!
What's going on, Pam? So grateful to be
Oh my
on.
God, I'm so excited. I was stumbling over my intro with you, but
Listen, this is my first podcast where I got an applause coming on to the podcast. I'm pretty hyped about that.
They're hyped over there. Okay, my roadcaster's hyped over there. So I am so excited because one, you're doing the thing that most people dream about, speaking to thousands, almost 1 million people, and really getting paid millions of dollars, getting on stages, making a difference. So tell us the why, and then tell us a little bit of the how, and then we'll back into Talkadot, which is really the game changer for all speakers. So make sure you stay tuned for that.
I've been doing it for 17 years, and my story is started because of, I think, how many people get started in speaking. I went to an event and I heard someone speaking, and I remember saying to myself, I don't know what that person's doing, but I want to do that for the rest of my life. I want to just do that, and that was my my impetus. That was my kind of why. It was literally like when
Do you remember who it was?
No.
Was it Wes Brown or
No. I was 19 at the time, so I don't even know the guy's name.
but he just made an impact.
Yeah, I wasn't smart enough to go up to them and be like, "Hey, you changed my life, thank you." But what's fascinating is there's a speaker named Victor Antonio, who's a very popular speaker. He does sales training. He spoke at my college, and I did, like, the second time I was like, I'm not gonna let that. So I did go up to him, and I credit Victor for being the guy who gave me the push to actually get into speaking, because I thought you had to be like a 50-year-old white guy to get into speaking. I didn't think you could be a person of color and young. So that was like my first seeing of it. Was a guy whose name I'll never know, and I'll never know who he was. But Victor Antonio was the guy who was like, do it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it right now. And I got into speaking to students, and basically at the time I had just graduated college. So I thought, well, like, who's gonna want to listen to me? And he's like, well, if you speak to students, you'd be like a big brother, not a father figure. And I was like, yeah, I could do that. He was like, so give them the game for how you got into school, how you did well. And that's kind of how I really got started with it.
I love that. So Arel, I think we had this talk a while back, and really you were helping students with student success. And students are like, I don't want to hear. I already hear lectures all day, so I ain't trying to hear nobody else. So you have to be really good to keep their attention because they're already talked to in class. So to have like, oh, we've got this guest speaker coming in here that's going to talk to you, and they're like, oh, brother. But the other person that did the same thing was E.T. Eric Thomas. He started students. Dr. Delatoro McNeil, students. Dennis Kimbrough, in a way, he still teaches. I mean, so basically, he's a researcher. He's a Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. He's a professor. But I find that that's real. Lisa Nichols too. That was the other person that started out just talking to teens. And it's not that that's the recipe for success, but I find that the most fascinating speakers or the most energetic speakers did speak to kids. My business coach, Andrew Morrison, years ago, his first speaking gig, he was afraid of speaking in public, and he made himself speak to kids. He was a part of Junior Achievement. And so if anybody who's like, oh, I don't know if I could do this, volunteer for junior achievement. It worked for Andrew, and now he speaks all the time. Or, the whole thing about the Toastmasters thing. How you feel about Toastmasters?
I've never personally did Toastmasters, so I've got nothing positive or negative to say about it. I typically look at Toastmasters as, if you're afraid of speaking and you're like a manager or a mid-level manager, it might be a great place. But I could also be speaking of it completely ill-informed. So I've never done it, but I'm sure it's a wonderful organization that does like lots of great work.
Yeah. So you never had the fear of speaking, because they always say, oh, next to death, people are most afraid of speaking in public. So you never had that. You were
No,
always,
it was something that for me, I genuinely was like, people will pay you to do that? Like, that I could, like, as bad as it sounds, I saw the people doing it. I was like, well, if they're doing it, I could do it. Like, so it was more of, it seemed almost like a non-skill to me, because it did feel very
natural.
Like, yeah, it did, and I wanted to be excellent at it, not just like good. I didn't want, like, some people go, oh, I have a good message, but I wanted to be excellent on stage. I wanted to understand the craft. It's, to me, when I look at like a Dave Chappelle or a Kevin Hart, the way they look at comedy, it's their craft. They want to understand it's not just that they're funny. They want to know, how do I tell a story? How do I keep someone from start to finish? And that's how I've always felt about public speaking. That's my art. And I just want to, I'll never get to the end of the craft, but I'm always constantly trying to get better at it.
So you really have a speaking business, and that's why you make millions of dollars, because you study the craft. Have you had time where you were investing in the craft, besides reading and studying other speakers? But did you have speaking coaches? Did you buy books, courses? What was your...
Yeah, so basically the way that I studied the craft, one, I actually studied stand-up comics. So I think stand-up comics, their way of telling stories and delivery
and their timing.
They're actually, if you're a really good stand-up comic and you can actually get a good message, you can make way more than being a comic as a speaker.
Like, come on now. You are really dropping the information. We haven't even got to the part about Talkadot, but that part right there, most speakers do not know. To go and actually be trained by a comedian, or to actually, my cousin this evening, his first recital or his first showcase is tonight. He went through Mark Ridley's Comedy Kitchen. I think it was 4 weeks or whatever, and they drilled him of how to do a 10-minute comedy talk tonight. It's tonight. And he wants to speak. So that was part of the thing that I recommended. I said, it's part of timing. Not that you have to get paid to be a Kevin Hart or anything. I said, but it's timing, and then knowing how to master the state. This is so good. This is so good. So you've invested in doing that. Do you do coaching for speakers as well?
So I'm not coaching speakers personally. So with Talkadot, we do have opportunities for people to ask questions. We have something called a weekly AMA. So it's not really coaching. It's more just help and support. But there's lots of great coaches out there, like Adele Bazell, Jonathan Sprinkles. I've learned from him. He's amazing on stage. So there's lots of great coaches.
Did he start out speaking to youth as well? I don't know. Yeah. He did, because I remember he met my daughter, and he was she was impressed with him. And teenagers are like, but I was like, he has a way with youth. So yeah, okay, yeah, that is the thing. So let's talk about Talkadot. Talkadot, how did it come about? Are you a techie?
I am not a techie. No, not a techie at all. So the background on Talkadot is what happens when you're a speaker is that lots of people come up to you and say, I want to get into speaking. How'd you do it? Right. There was a young lady who had sold her tech company, and we were in the same entrepreneurship group, and they said, hey, you want to get into speaking, you need to contact Arel because he does it. So she contacted me, and I worked with her, and I was explaining, the industry and how it works. And it was interesting because from her perspective, she kept asking questions that no one's ever asked me before. Like, why is it done that way? How do you how do they make decisions? How do they know if someone's actually a good speaker? Wait, why is it done? Like, she was so like, it seemed so confusing to her from her perspective. And I was like, well, that's the way it is.
That's the way it's always been done, right?
That's how it's always been done. That's so you've got to learn the game. And she was like, well, what if there's something we could do about it? What if there was a way to actually take speakers who are actually good and help them prove their value so that it's easier for decision makers to decide and trust them? I was like, yeah, that sounds interesting. She was like, well, what if we can make it easier for speakers to get booked? I was like, well, that's what all speakers want. Like, I know, like, I'm a content expert. I'm not a celebrity, even though I have the Disney show. Like, it's not it's not a Game of Thrones. It's not a big show in any way. So no one really knows me from the TV stuff. So when you're a content expert, what you say is way more important than who you are. When you're a celebrity, who you are is more important than what you say. But how do you prove to people that you're actually good? And we all do the same thing. We post videos, we post pictures, but like it all starts looking the same. There's no way to kind of differentiate. And that's really where Talkadot came out, because if we could give people the same way kind of Trustpilot allows you to feel comfortable going to a business, or Uber has ratings, or Amazon has ratings to make you feel comfortable making a purchase, we wanted to have that same ideology for the speaking business.
I love it. It's like Yelp.
That's right. 100%.
For the speaking business, because
100%.
before we go anywhere, we're checking like those reviews. And so the person that was asking the questions about the stage and how do you nurture, or how do we know someone's good, explain to me, when you are doing a keynote, how it's different now for you when you use Talkadot and versus before.
Well, what makes it so, this is the biggest game changer. So number one, as a speaker, we all know the experience of getting off stage and then people come up to us and they want to talk to us, which is wonderful. Yes. Now, if you've spoken even a little bit, you've always experienced the long talker, that person who's talking to you after the stage and they're not letting you talk to other people. You got this long line of people, you're talking to that one person, and then you see that person with the card in their hand and you're getting antsy and you're like, ooh, that could be business, but I don't know how to break from this conversation, and then they walk away. So with Talkadot,
right. Yeah, I hate that.
No, it's the worst, because you're like, yo, I want that card for the next.
That could be my next, my next gig.
Exactly. So what's great about Talkadot is not only do we get you the audience rates you, so you get a value like actual data, we also collect speaking leads from you. So at the end of the talk, I already know everyone who wants to book me. I've already collected their information, so I could talk to whoever I want to talk to. So there's an ease, but then two, I can make those what I believe are called 1% improvements. Like when I look at my feedback, I can see what my audience is saying that they liked and what they didn't like. And if they didn't like something, I can say, well, how do I tweak it so I can get those 1% improvements? So what happens is I'm constantly getting 1% better every time I talk because of the feedback, and I'm getting speaking leads. So it makes my speaking business part easier, but it makes my craft better as well.
I love that. So Speakers Magazine, it's been around for 6 years. George Fraser was our first cover. He's kind of like the godfather for a lot of different speakers, right? George Fraser, Power Networking. He's been speaking. He speaks, I think he said something like 500 times within 1 year or something. It was like crazy. I was like, it's not that many years. It's not that many days for you to be speaking. We speak twice a day. It's like, so anyway, so George always talks about the business card. He says so many people after he speaks, they run up to him afterwards and say, hey, here's my card. And or can I have your card? That's what they say. Can you give me your card? George says, I probably have given out 1 million cards. He says, it's probably less than 1% of the people that call you. And so with Talkadot, what I liked about it, for those that are in Speakers Magazine, they're jumping on stages all the time, is that Talkadot allows you to nurture the leads, people who have heard you. It's easier to sell to someone who is a warm lead, have heard you, than a cold lead. And so when I asked someone today, his name was, I won't say his name, I'm going to put it on blast. I don't do that. I said, how many people did you speak? I spoke at this conference. There was thousands of people there. And, you get the applause, that all feels good. And I was like, did you get any of the information from them? And he said, no. I said, so now you got to start from ground zero, trying to figure out, did those people hear you? Are they going to call you? Did you get their number? Do they have your number? I mean, like you put it up on the screen, but is it really captured to the point where they know to do that and you can nurture that lead? And he said, no. I said, so every time you step on the stage, you have to start from zero. So what I liked about Talkadot, and I'll put the link up here because I want people to really try it out, because they can try it out, just as a trial, is that it helps you with a system. The people who have the system win the game. Amazon, they don't sell anything. they win the game. There's a lot of companies that PayPal, they win the game. They have a system. The people who have the system win the game.
Yeah.
And so the Talkadot, and it's a Bitly Speakers Mag Talkadot, is one of those things where people can go to and sign up and actually walk us through what they will get first, second, and third, and what they can expect. So
Yeah.
really,
So
how it's a game changer.
yeah, and you nailed it, because what happens with speakers is we do talks, and then as soon as that talk's over, you got to hunt again, and it's like
Yeah.
it constantly feels like you're hunting, hunting, hunting. But what Talkadot allows you to do is every single time you speak, you're able to turn one talk into multiple talks, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I'm able to build my email list because I capture everyone's email, I capture everyone who's a lead,
That
and I'm
part.
getting data to prove the value. So what happens when you go to the link that you see there, you can sign up for a totally free account. Like we have a free version and we have a paid version. The paid version is only $35 a month, so it's not expensive, billed annually. But the free version, you'll get, because of folks with their connection to Speaker Magazine, they'll be able to get a 30-day trial of the Pro, no credit card necessary. So you can just literally test run it, use it.
Mm.
And what you'll get is you'll sign up, you'll get your account. We do a live onboarding every single week. So literally, I will walk you through how to use all the features. Every single week, we have a weekly, what we call AMA, Ask Me Anything. So if people have any questions about the tool, like I was mentioning earlier, they can ask us. We have the best in class customer support. So any emails you have, we have videos to show you how to use it. And we also give away tons of like great value. So we do trainings at no additional cost for our members on like how to get booked in the college market, how to structure a keynote, how to do a sales process, how to use Talkadot to do cold outreach, and how to break
Mm.
markets who don't know you. So when you have data, it's a totally different ballgame, because when the example I like to give people is this. Imagine you have children. If you have children, imagine your children, and you needed a babysitter to watch your kids overnight. Are you just going to go up to some random flyer that says, I'm a babysitter, and they're going to be like, oh, that person's a babysitter, let me hire them to watch my kids overnight while I'm out of town?
No.
No. You typically, what the industry is similar to ours is, you typically go, who's someone I know that I
Yes.
trust that will watch my kids? Then you go, who do I know that can introduce me to someone they trust? But if you
Mm.
have to go to like a care.com, well, the first thing you're going to look for is who's got like 20,000 5-star reviews
Yeah.
and lots of proof that they are good at watching kids from a third-party site that I can trust. Then I'd give them that chance. So our data allows you to do that same type of thing, but for speaking.
Mm.
We walk you through the whole process, and we're with you along the way. And it really is a game changer, because you get data to prove your value. You build your email list so you can sell your courses, your books, and more speaking engagements in the future.
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
get the leads from the audience delineated for you, so you know exactly who to reach out to after your talk to book more speaking engagements. And the host loves it, because you give them a data report of how well the
Oh, yeah.
so
That part.
they love the fact.
Yes.
So your
Yes.
client loves that you did it. Your
Yes.
audience loves to give you feedback, and you're getting all the things you need. And all you have to do is put a QR code up. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Oh my God. That system, that part right there is what people really will pay for, because that is, I mean, you have an event producer, meeting planner. They had this event, Arel Moodie came in. How did he do? Well, he got a standing ovation, blah, blah. But the people who put up the money to pay you, they want to know the data. Like, what did people really say? Give it to me in real time. How long will they get that data, that report that following your talk?
Is right away. It's instant. So that's the other thing that's great about it. Literally, the moment you get off stage, you can go to your host and say, look at this data report that's already beautifully designed. You don't have to go
Come
to
on now.
Excel. You ain't got to Canva. You ain't got to go to Fiverr. So you literally go, hey, look at this feedback. And every
See,
single one of my clients goes,
that's
how'd you get that so quick? That's amazing.
that is a game changer, and you will be booked again next year because you actually have the data and it's given to them right there on the spot.
That's right.
So you sound more excited about this than your books, speaking. What changed? I mean, you still probably do speaking and all that kind of stuff, and what was the name of your book so people can go to Amazon and get your book?
So I wrote 2 books on student success. One is called Your Starting Point for Student Success, and the other is called Your
Okay.
Student Success Action Guide.
Okay. All right. So you're still excited about that?
Yeah, here's the thing. As speakers, we're excited about what's currently most interested to us, Like if you think about what topics we like speaking about, it's the things that are most relevant to us. So that's why you see certain speakers who are kind of dialing it in, and they're just like saying, like you can tell they've lost the energy
Yeah,
to
yeah.
go out on
I
stage.
always thought about that too, even about with singers, like they're singing the same songs. I mean, Stephanie Mills, she still has the energy, but people will like burn the house down if she don't sing home. And
Mhm.
it's like, how many times she got to sing that song?
So I think it's important as not just speakers but as entrepreneurs that if you're not passionate about your work, it will show.
Yeah.
And you can try to fake it and think you're a good actor or an actress, but
People can tell.
So what I love about this, what I love about Talkadot is that I have a vision of it elevating the entire speaker industry. Now, the speaker industry to me is it's my craft, it's my baby.
Mhm.
And I want people who are actually good and do a good job to raise to the top. And I want people who are mean spirited, dial it in, just collecting a check, don't really care about their audience, but have figured out like marketing. There's no accountability for them. So if we can make it so that there's actual accountability that people have to be good people, it's kind of like how taxi drivers back in the day would like smoke cigarettes, dirty cars, pick you up late. But then Uber came around and created accountability with rating systems. And now you got clean cars, they're available, they're courteous. And I hope that we can elevate the overall industry by having the people who are actually good rise to the top and be able to prove it with data. And the people who are suck and are not good and don't care and just trying to get a check and don't care about helping people, they'll either have to raise to the level of everyone else or get pushed out.
I like that. We have a mutual friend, Ron Story,
Mhm.
that are you guys from the same city?
No, he's
Okay.
from. I mean,
St.
he lives in
Louis.
Columbia now, but
Right, right. But I
he
think
was
he's from
like,
St. Louis or something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
no, no, I'm from New York.
Okay, you're from New York. So Ron said this, and I'm sure he doesn't mind me saying. He said, "Speaking has become the new hustle." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "There's everybody out here wants to be a speaker, and they think it's a new hustle." He says, "Before years ago, people wanted to sell real estate." He
Mm.
said real estate was the new hustle. That was the side hustle. I'm going to sell real estate. I'm going to flip a house, blah, blah, this and that. He said, now it's speaking. And I said, why is that? He said, because it's easy access. You just get a microphone, you get out there and you start speaking. And so now we have a whole plethora of people who want to be speakers. They're very bad. And then when someone says, oh, I'm a speaker, immediately now it has like this yucky kind of feel to it because they are lowering the bar of the industry. Whereas before, and it's like, oh, well, Les Brown, George Fraser, Dennis Kimbrough, they're a speaker. Lisa Nichols was a speaker, and it was like a good thing. But now it's when someone else says, you go to a networking event and it says, I'm a speaker, and it's kind of like, oh, really?
Yeah, it's very kind of similar or reminiscent of oh, I'm a model because like people think modeling is easy. Oh, I just stand there and take a
Mm,
picture. Like yo, modeling is hard. If you've ever
it
done
is
any
very
modeling work,
hard. Oh my
it's a
God.
craft. So that is the thing about speaking. There's no entry. There's no barrier to entry,
You
right?
can just get up on
Anyone can do it.
stage.
There's no certification really. I mean, there's a CSP for NSA, but it's not like you can't speak without a CSP. So
Right. Right.
and what you'll see is eventually potentially you'll see that it'll turn into like you ever have a friend who goes, oh, I got a mixtape, and you're like, okay, everyone's got a mixtape, like everyone's got an album. But if you make really good music, you stand out from the crowd. And I think that everyone should be bad before they're good because no one starts excellent. But if you're not dedicated to the craft of it, if I meet a speaker who goes, oh, I'm really good at speaking, I don't need any help with that, I immediately file them in my brain as you don't get it and you're never going to succeed because the people who
Mhm.
are crushing it never stop trying to get better at what they're doing. Like period. But you know, it is what it is. It'll be what it'll be.
That is one of the things that because I signed up for the Talkadot obviously and went through and everything. But you talked about one part about the outreach. Well, you have the AMA. I love that part. Ask me anything because it's almost like the speaking industry is kind of like this little closed industry. It's like how can we learn from someone who's been there, done that without, like when I have these questions as they arise, like week to week or whatever. So I love that. But tell us about the outreach part of Talk About what you said. That part was in there. How you can make the cold outreach.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you a perfect example. I spoke at a group called ASAE, which is the American Society of Association Executives, right? So I
Mhm.
speak to the Michigan chapter.
You're in Michigan. That's where I am.
Oh, okay.
Next time you come to Detroit, we have to make sure that we connect. I started to say
I'm
hook up, but
all
that's
up
not
in
the word I
Michigan. Now
want
that
to
I know
say.
that you're there, I be in DTW all the time.
Okay, okay. DGW, right.
So, so I do a technique in my business called land and expand, and I think it's so simple, but people don't get it. Michigan. So this is a national association with state chapters. I
Mhm.
just got to get the one. I get Michigan. Then I take my Talkadot report from Michigan and I reach out to the Florida, to the Washington, to the
Texas.
Chicago, to the New York. And I go, hey, I just did a keynote at this event. Here's the report of what the members thought. I'd love to do that presentation at your conference. So I booked 3 more state conferences that I got to be a keynote speaker for. And I outreach to a similar audience of a group that I've spoken to, but now I'm not reaching out going, hey, you should book me. I spoke there. I'm like, hey, you should book me. And here's the
Some
proof of
data.
what they're saying. And that's a totally different outreach.
Oh
Totally
my God. I love this. This is such nerdy egghead stuff that I'm even loving
different.
it.
It's my favorite geeky stuff right here. This is the stuff I love. Like I like the
It is.
details and the specificity. I can
It
talk about
is. It's geeky stuff because most speakers think that it really all it requires is a photo shoot, right?
that. Hmm.
And a fancy website, and I get booked. But there is really a whole science to it.
Hmm.
And you have just tied the bow on something that I'm doing in Washington, D.C. Speak, Sell, and Shine.
Hmm.
And this is the tying the bow on it because we're taking them through the part of really how to sell from the stage, really the whole presentation of their branding assets, how to do the PR, how to do their marketing. But when they're on the stage, like what you just said, one keynote did you crush. Uh, so what I will say that one speaking gig netted you three, and that's the beauty of Talkadot. So I am right now before we close out. I'm going to make sure that if there's anything else that you want to say before my all the lights go out.
I just want to say that it's super important for everyone who's speaking to just know that um, it is a craft and it is a business, right?
Mhm,
It
mhm,
is not a self look at me, look how great I am, look what I've accomplished, look what I've overcome, like give me my flowers, damn it, right? That's not what this industry is. The industry is we are here to impact and change lives, and it's about the audience. So there's a
mhm,
craft element to how do I deliver my message, how do I impact them, how do I help them, and then there's a business element. How do I get in
mhm,
front of the decision makers, how do I solve problems so that like a simple thing is people think speakers think in terms of the solution, clients think in terms of the problem. So what happens
mhm,
is a lot of speakers are always talking about their solution, but they have no idea what problem they're actually solving with that solution, right?
mhm,
So understanding the craft of the business is understanding what problems you solve, who has those problems, and who has the bank account that wants to solve them. And if you dedicate yourself to that and you work with someone like Dr. Perry here who can show you these skills, it's going to elevate your game, and you might be able to figure it out in 10 years, but I can tell you when you work with people who know what they're doing like you clearly do, it just speeds it up. And I just can't stress to people there's no point in reinventing a wheel if it's already been invented and all you have to do is literally copy and paste it. So I just encourage people to, one, get the right support, get the right training, because it just makes your life so much easier. And two, be dedicated to the craft and to the business, because those are two skills that you have to excel at to win at this game. And then Talk It Out will help you measure it, will help you promote it, and will help you get leads as you go on that journey. All right. So, if anyone has any questions whatsoever that they might want to throw in the chat, Would love to answer those. We have some people joining us live, which is wonderful. So if you have any questions whatsoever, please throw them into the chat. I want to answer some questions that people typically ask and they want to know. They want to know things like, okay, well, how do you tee up Talkadot? Like, okay, so I understand you use it. We recommend using Talkadot not at the very end of your presentation, right? So we have a slide that we create for you within Talkadot. So all you have to do is take the slide, insert it in. It's got a QR code that leads to a really specific survey flow. Don't put it at the very end. Actually put it right before you're closing. And that's a key element that is an important question people ask, right? Like, well, when do you tee it up? How do you tee it up? So as a thank you for people, for your audience taking your survey, you can give them something. So you can give them a PDF, a video. I like to typically give people a copy of the slides of the presentation that I did. So it's a little carrot to thank them for giving you feedback. So typically I'll say something like, hey, was this presentation valuable? People say, yeah, it was. They raise their hand. I said, great. Well, the best way you can pay me back is to let me know what you thought about this presentation. I want to know what you liked about it so I can do more of it. I want to know what you disliked about it so I can improve upon it. And the only way I can do that is with your feedback. So go ahead and scan this QR code. Give me your feedback. It takes less than 2 minutes. And as a thank you for giving me your feedback, I'm going to give you access to a summary of everything we talked about here today, as I promised you earlier in my presentation. Typically, I like tease it earlier in the presentation, right? And then I literally give them 2 minutes in my presentation to give me feedback. And during those 2 minutes, I typically will walk over to my host and say, hey, thank you so much for bringing me in. It's such an honor, such a privilege to be here. I'm going to wrap up in 5 minutes. They're giving me feedback. I'm going to send that report to you. Anything you need me to do before we wrap up? And they typically go, oh, no, everything's great. And then I go back up and then go into my closing and finish out my presentation. So that's a really important nuance of Talkadot that I just wanted to make sure to copy before we wrap up here today.
Oh my God. I love you. Because I was not here for about 5 minutes, but I was
I know. I got your back, girl. Don't worry. I got you.
That is like a real pro.
Get into it now.
My broadcaster died. My other light died. I'm like, okay, but I'm going to come back on. I love it. So let me tell you, this is a real pro. You need to know this is a game changer. You need to get on it. So I am Pam Perry. I am out. Arel Moodie, thank you so much. Talkadot is a game changer. Speakers Magazine, Talkadot, our official sponsor at Speak, Sell, and Shine. This is the thing that everybody has to do. That someone said, let's go. And my Mac is saying there's a problem. But you know what? We are out of here. So thank you so much for yes. So Dakota, he said, let's go, Arel, let's go. So yeah, you did it. You did the thing. So thank you, sir, so much. Love you. I will talk to you soon. Okay. God bless. Alrighty. Bye-bye.